Hi, I'm Brian Crombie, and we're going to be talking on The Brian Crombie Show. We're going to be talking about politics, arts, business, and social issues on The Brian Crombie Show on Canada One TV. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Brian Crombie Show on Canada One TV. We've got an election coming up in just under 2 weeks, October 24th, in the city of Mississauga and all around the province of Ontario. And I've been canvassing numerous of the different politicians and the candidates that are running, and I want to introduce you tonight to Imran Hasan, who is running in Ward 11. This is his third time running for ward councillor in Ward 11. This time there's not an incumbent, and so he's got a very good chance of being victorious. Imran, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. Good evening, Brian, and good evening to your listenership and viewership.
Thank you very much. So, Imran, let's hear a little bit about your story. What's your background, and why do you think that you would make a good politician, a good councillor in Ward 11?
Well, I'm going to start off by saying I'm not a politician. I'm a community builder, and the work that I've done over the past decade, serving my community as a volunteer, is a reflection of that. I am a local business owner here in Streetsville. I've been here since 1991. I'm also a local resident in Ward 11 in the area of Levi Creek. I've been there for the last 22 years. I did live in Lisgar before that, Square One before that. So a good 3 decades in Mississauga. I love Mississauga. I think it's the greatest city in Canada, and I believe that Ward 11 is the best community in the city. Fantastic.
And tell us a little bit about your community involvement if you're a big community builder.
Okay, well, I'll start off by, in the beginning, Mississauga Board of Trade was something I took an interest in just because I wanted to raise the profile for small and independent businesses. And I felt that the Mississauga Board of Trade offered a platform to not only promote my own business, but also promote others who are in business. And so I chaired the Growth and Power Committee as well.
Growth and what?
The Growth and Power Committee. And
the Growth and Power Committee, pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was a project that was led by the then CEO David Boychuk, and he asked me to shepherd that program that he started. And really, the focus was entrepreneurs and small businesses that had a concept and made it into a successful business story. So through that, I was able to connect with so many of our community champions in the business sector. And then I moved on from there into the International Trade Committee and chaired that to help increase trade and commerce between Canada and countries around the world. Once I had felt I did what I could to help increase membership at the Mississauga Board of Trade and raise the profile for the Chamber of Commerce, I moved my sights to the the food bank in Mississauga that serves Western Mississauga, which is Eden Food for Change. Organized a small little fundraiser at breakfast time that served kids for free, and we raised $5,000 in the first go around. And over the past 4 years, including the COVID-19 pandemic, we raised over $100,000 for Eden.
$100,000, fantastic! And you did these breakfasts were sort of like drive-by breakfasts during COVID, I understand.
Yeah, Brian. It did start off as a dine-in buffet. Meet and greet your neighbors, including our first responders and other stakeholders in the community. And because of COVID, we had to change to a different model. So we decided to go with the drive-through, and it proved to be quite successful. Brian, the year prior to COVID-19, in 2019, we had the event that organized that was a dine-in that we raised over $12,800. And then when COVID hit in the following subsequent year, when we held the event in 2020, we were actually able to raise $33,000 in the drive-through model. So the drive-through proved to be quite successful.
Fantastic. And then Crime Stoppers, I understand.
So Crime Stoppers was something that also came to my attention. I felt that we had to find ways and means through community-led organizations to help protect the community. And so I helped organize a fundraiser for Crime Stoppers in the form of a hockey tournament. We raised about $15,000 in an afternoon, and I got the attention of the board. They asked if I would consider serving. I joined them in a capacity to do fundraising, but then COVID hit, and so we weren't able to really do a whole lot. So I was asked to help build the board. So I built the board and developed some more members for them. And then once we got to a certain level, they said, "Listen, it's a board that you've helped develop. We'd like you to lead it." So they selected me as their board chair. And so that's kind of where I've been for the past couple of years.
Imran, you're running a successful business in Streetsville. It's in the electronics business or something like that, I think.
Telecom.
Why get so involved in the community? Why spend so much time of your spare, rare time doing all this stuff, Crime Stoppers and Eden Food Bank and the Mississauga Board of Trade? Why do it?
Well, it's really an inspiration from my father. My father is my hero, and I know that when he chose Canada as his home in 1973, he arrived here as a pioneer, and he really didn't have any role models, Brian, and he didn't have anyone to explain to him, the different levels of government and the services that they provide, and he was able to navigate through the system with many challenges and barriers, but he survived. And was able to establish a business, and we're here today because of the many wise decisions my dad made. But I wanted to ensure that going forward, that people who are coming to Canada to make this great country their home, that they're not having to go through the same struggles and challenges. And so as I've been knocking on doors over the past 16 weeks, Brian, what I'm hearing from different people from the community is that really representation matters. And I've heard the voices of seniors, and those of the youth, and those of newcomers, and they just felt that their voices were being muted, they weren't being heard. And I guess that would really be reflected, Brian, in the voter apathy and why we only have like a 25 to 30% turnout in municipal elections. And so I really felt there was an opportunity here to raise that bar of excellence in voting for our communities, and also hear the voices of those who have been unheard.
24% turnout, that's pretty dismal.
It is, and I think that there's a reason for that.
What's the reason?
I think one of the reasons, Brian, is that people don't truly understand how the local level of government impacts their daily lives. And I've been invited over the past several weeks to come to different institutions, whether it be places of worship or learning institutions, and speak about civics and focus on the municipal government and the services it provides. And the illustration, Brian, I give to people, I say, well, when you wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth or take a shower, that's a municipal service. Or when you back your car out onto the road and you see a pothole, call your counselor, because that's a municipal service. Or if in the middle of winter you're walking on a nicely cleared sidewalk, you can thank your municipal government, because that's another municipal service. And heaven forbid, if you have to call 911 and need the emergency services, well, those are all municipal services. So that and so many more. And I think once we illustrate that to people, they start to really realize how important the local level of government is. And while it's important, Brian, to elect your next prime minister and premier, that those two levels of government don't impact the lives of ordinary citizens as much as the municipal level, which is not just daily but hourly.
I agree with you. I think that all those services that you mentioned are critically important to our daily lives, but I think people just sort of expect them, right? It's water, it's electricity, it's the roads, etc. Schools are things that can impact our families fairly dramatically, and so therefore Board of Education is critical. But I think the other thing about municipalities that we forget is it's also the community centers that can have a dramatic impact on our family life, on our community life. It's the hockey rinks, it's the swimming pools, it's the libraries, and it's also our urban cores, our centers, our main streets. It's the zoning. It is whether we end up having a strip plaza or a nice main street in downtown Streetsville. It's depending on whether we've got a big condo or a hotel or an industrial building. So all of those zoning decisions are made by the municipal council.
Yeah, I would agree, Brian. I think we really have to be very mindful and be just a little more thoughtful when we make that decision to vote or not vote, and knocking on doors and reminding people about the importance of the local level of government is certainly one way to encourage that. I actually called the city clerk office and by coincidence connected with the city clerk. And she asked the same question. She said, "Why do you think voter turnout is so low?" And I expressed exactly what we've discussed, and that is that people really need to understand, how the municipal government and the services it provides impacts the lives of everyday citizens. And so she asked, she said, "What would you do about it, Imran?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to do what I can over the next." It's about 2 months ago. I said, "Over the next 60 days leading up to the election." But I really think it's an opportunity for the city of Mississauga after the election's over during the next 4 years to bring that educational awareness to the public about the importance of the services that the city provides and the region provides. And hopefully that in itself would be a great campaign to help increase voter turnout.
Well, I'm doing what I can to increase voter turnout by introducing good quality candidates like yourself to the people of Mississauga. So thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a break for some messages and be back in just 2 minutes with Imran Hasan, who is running for ward councillor in Ward 11 in the city of Mississauga. And I'm going to ask him a couple of policy questions and see how he stands up to my queries. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Hour on Canada One TV. It's a real pleasure of mine to be introducing you tonight to a candidate in Ward 11, City of Mississauga. Imran Hasan is the gentleman's name. Imran, you've run twice before against George Carlson, who was the incumbent in Ward 11, but this time he's retired, and so there's no incumbent running, and you're running. What do you think are the big policy issues? What are those things that you've heard at the doors that people are really worried about?
Yes, Brian, this is my third go around. I finished second both times in 14 and 18 behind the incumbent. And this time, you're right, George is not running. And that's sort of my introduction at the doors to people. And people are quite surprised and very excited that there's change on the horizon. And what I'm hearing at the door is when I'm talking to not only the residents, Brian, but also the small business owners, is that there are three main priorities. Number one, they're concerned about neighborhood security. They're concerned about road safety, and they're also concerned about supporting the local businesses and increasing foot traffic in the Streetsville Village corridor. So that's what is being heard as I'm going door to door, and that's a consistent message which I've been focused on. And I feel that the work that I've done with the Mississauga Board of Trade, with PO Crime Stoppers, and having my business itself in Streetsville for the past 30 years, I really feel I can champion those priorities.
Okay, so what are some of the policy issues that you think people want? Traffic, road safety, you say, are some. What are the other ones?
Well, there's been a lot of cars being stolen from people's driveways, and I think through PO Crime Stoppers, we were able to introduce a product by a local company that created this pouch that protected the key fob from having the IR signal escape so that the bad actors wouldn't steal your car. And it's just a preventative measure. It's not a way to eliminate this problem. The best way to build, if I could say, resilience in the community would be through getting to know your neighbor and using common sense, and parking your car in the garage if possible, and not keeping your keys close to the door. And when I say get to know your neighbor, I think it's important, Brian. And I remember growing up like this as a kid. My parents knew the neighbors on both sides of our house, as well as the people lived across the street. And it's not that we were nosy, but we would always keep a watchful eye on what was happening around our neighborhood. And if our neighbors were going away, either for the day or for the weekend or even for a week, there was even a courtesy of here's my key. Please keep an eye on the house, or hey, I'm going to be gone. Please make sure that in those days it was the mail and the newspaper could be brought in and just make the house look lived in. And whether it was the wintertime, shovel my driveway, or in the summer, cut my grass. Those are just common courtesies, and I think that just helps build a stronger and a safer community.
I'm shocked at the number of car thefts, and you were right. A lot of them are just people that are stealing the signal from the fob because someone leaves their keys at the front door and getting access to the car. Correct. And it sounds like such a simple thing to do, to just don't leave the keys at the front door if you've got a fob attached, an electronic fob.
Well, my wife will say that common sense is a superpower these days. So we just have to continue talking about it and letting people know that these are the simple measures they can take. When it comes to road safety, Brian, there's been a habit of people driving faster, and even if you look at some of the reports, I think there's been over 400 or 500 cases of stunt driving in the past month, and these are staggering numbers, and we don't understand why people need to have that need for speed. It's like slow down. We have seniors, we have children, and we have people with special needs who have to get around. They don't move around as quickly as the ordinary average person who's healthy and able to be mobile. But more importantly, I mean, by getting somewhere 30 seconds faster or 1 minute faster, I don't really see, how that is so important when you're endangering the lives of citizens in your community and many times in your own neighborhood. So I think we just need to, increase awareness and education about the importance of driving safely and carefully and mindfully. And again, if we need to, we're going to ensure there's appropriate enforcement. And where we need to, I've also heard, a request for a greater presence of police in the community. And that can be a whole separate conversation, Brian, sometime. We can have and invite some of my friends from Peel Regional Police and the other levels of policing here in Peel Region.
I got to tell you, I think that your comments about speed are important, but the stunt driving is really obnoxious. And I think that, the fact that it is so prevalent and so many people end up doing this. And what did you say, over 100 in the last month?
Oh, I think the cases were much more than that. I think it was 400. So
400 in the last month. I just think that the tickets are way too small. There's got to be a far bigger deterrent because, we hear these people on the 403, the QEW, on some of the local roads, and they're just going outrageous speeds. And speeding is one thing that lots of people do, and that's wrong. But stunt driving is like a whole different story. Anyway, Imran, transit. Tell me about transit. You've got a GO train station right in the middle of Streetsville. All day two-way GO service has been something that Mississauga City Council have been talking about for a long period of time. What do you think should happen with that?
Well, I've experienced it myself, Brian. Not only when I'm knocking on the doors and hearing it from the residents who feel that while it's great to have the GO train station right there in beautiful Streetsville, it needs to be fully utilized. And at the moment, as you pointed out, we don't have two-way service for the full day. We have it during the express hours. And I remember about a month ago, maybe it was longer, 6 weeks ago, I had to go to Kingston and the hour that I had to take the train from Union was in the middle of the day. So I attempted to get to downtown Union, but I couldn't get a GO train from Streetsville. So then I had to drive to Oakville to pick up the Via and then take the Via into Union and then continue from there. So it was an interesting experience, and I think if that's what people have to do, it's a bit of a deterrent for people to take public transit at all. If you gotta go west to go east, you might as well just hop in your car and drive straight to where you gotta go. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what we can do to help increase the frequency of the service so that we can really allow those people that live close to the transit hubs the opportunity to use public transit and also increase the accessibility of these important stations that we have by creating maybe substations that will be able to get people from where they live, if it's not walking distance to the train station, to the actual station, so that they can get to where they got, whether it's work or recreation, or in some cases, people like to go downtown for concerts and different kinds of events. So we just want to make sure that they can utilize the service all the time.
Yeah, if you wanted to go to a concert downtown from Streetsville, you'd have to go down to the Lakeshore Go to get downtown. There's no trains downtown in the afternoon or the evening. And I think the last train back is 6 something or 7 o'clock, and so you're game over. I guess you'd be on a Go bus or something like that. It's atrocious to me that I think we're spending billions of dollars on this Hurontario LRT, which is going north south on Hurontario. I don't think the direction that a lot of people want to go, and yet we've got this existing train, the existing train tracks, the existing trains, the services, etc., going exactly where people want to go, which is a diagonal through Mississauga and into Toronto. And yet you can't go all day, and you can't go two ways. Doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't, Brian. And I'm hoping that we can bring those voices to the council meetings and raise the priority of moving people from where they live to where they want to go, whether it's for work or recreation.
Lots of different people think that affordable housing is the number one issue in Ontario today, or the lack of affordable housing, and that municipal governments are the cause, that they are being overly restrictive in approving developments because local councillors like you want to be give in to NIMBYs that don't want any development near them, and that we've got to build something like 1.5 million extra homes in the Greater Toronto Area in the next 5 years if we're going to have any level of affordability. Tell me what your attitude toward density in Streetsville and your ward is.
Well, I'm going to start off by, full disclosure. I'm a member of the Streetsville Historical Society, and I'm also serving on a committee for Heritage Mississauga. So it's not lost upon me that any development that's going to happen in Streetsville is going to be with the consultation of these stakeholder groups and others, so that we can ensure that whatever that development looks like is fitting with the character of the community. So now, to answer the question about affordable housing and how do we mindfully and thoughtfully create more spaces for people to live. I was knocking on a door in the Streetsville area, and I spoke with a gentleman who said, his kids grew up in Streetsville, and once they were able to get a job, they had to move out of Streetsville in order to be able to find a home.
Or a home.
And I think that's absolutely unacceptable. I think people who grew up in the community should be able to find affordable housing, and so they can establish their own families and continue that path. But it was a shame that family actually had to move to Alberta and find a place in Calgary and find a job there. But the answer really is, I think we need to speed up the process for the applications. I think we need to, where we can, remove some of the red tape. I think there's a lot of delays that happen when you're making applications for zoning and permits. But I will say that I've heard there's a couple of projects that are going on in Ward 11 that residents weren't really keen on, and they said, Imran, how would you handle things differently if you were the councillor? And I said I would have done it in a process where, once we know a developer is ready to make an application for development, before they make the application, I would do a consultation with the stakeholders, the business owners, the residents, and other institutions, and ask them what their wish list would be. Take that wish list, present it to the developer, and ask them to incorporate those priorities into the vision of the development, and then make the application. So that when we did see something, at least it was a reflection of what the community wanted or expressed as they needed. So those are the kind of things that just would be able to make the conversation a little more transparent, and also give the community some of the things that they're looking for, and not a surprise when it goes to council, gets approved, and then we inform the public what's going on. So I think communication is key, Brian, and that's really what I've been involved in through my business over the past 30 years in the telecom sector. And so I'll bring that level of customer service and communication and transparency to the local level of government.
Imran, something like 57% of Mississauga hasn't even lived in Canada for 10 years. So we've got a very ethnically diverse community in Mississauga. You were quoted, actually interviewed, I think, on CBC that we need more diversity on city council. Why?
Well, you pointed it out. Over half of the population is of an ethnic descent, and yet when we look at council, it's not reflected at the local level of government. We really need people who have a lived experience, and we're going back to the story I'd shared earlier about my father coming to Canada in 1973 as a newcomer. I mean, that experience is ingrained in my mind and in my heart. It's how I live every day. I'm always mindful of those who are coming to Canada to make this great country their home. And I want to ensure that they're welcomed here and that they're able to, feel that their voice matters, and to have, that ability to hold hands and join together as a community. And I think that unless we have people who have lived that experience, I'm not sure they're going to fully appreciate how that they can reach out to the different communities. Whether you're coming from, Africa, or you're coming from Europe, or you're coming from South America. You're coming through a journey, and when you arrive here, there's many challenges and barriers, and unless you live that experience yourself, it's hard to put yourself in someone's shoes and do that. So I really want to make life easier for those people, and whether you've lived here for 5 generations, or you've come here 5 decades ago, or you've just arrived 5 months ago. I really feel that I have that ability to bring different communities together, and to be able to, just bring that sense of peace and harmony to the city, and especially here to Ward 11.
Imran Hasan, candidate for Ward 11 in the city of Mississauga. Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck on Election Day. I think that you're the type of person that would be excellent for the residents of Ward 11 to have on city council representing them. And I really appreciate you giving us the time to let us hear a little bit about yourself, your background, and your policies. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to connect with your listenership and viewership, Brian. And it's always a pleasure connecting with you.
That's our show for tonight, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. The Brian Crombie Show on Canada One TV. Good night, everybody.